Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jessie Nealand, and today we are going to be doing part 4 of the series on the common characteristics for the runner body image avatar. So if you haven't seen the rest, you can go back and watch those. I'll include the links below. Today we are talking about the fact that the runner will armor themselves both physically and emotionally using the body. Now, this can mean a lot of different things. I would argue that any numbing or coping mechanisms that involve sort of numbing, repressing, disconnecting, some of those can be armor. Pushing people away, holding people at arm's length, like, emotional patterns of, starting fights or breaking up with someone before they break up with you, or even shame. Shame can be a way of armoring yourself against vulnerability, because if you hate yourself first, then nobody else can kind of do that and hurt you in that way and hate you over something that you didn't know about. So there's so many ways a person can armor themselves physically and emotionally. All of this is just a way of protecting yourself. They're protective mechanisms. Everybody's look different. We all have them. The runner happens to usually have a lot, because the runner hates feeling vulnerable, hates feeling weak, and is always afraid. They learned at some point that life was not safe, that other people are not safe, and so they are always sort of on guard against danger, against attack, against betrayal, against the pain of unmet needs or the pain of vulnerability. Whatever it is, they're on guard. So the armor that they build will be unique to them, but a lot of it will have to do with their body. And part of that is because our body is where we do everything. Like our bodies are the tool we interface with the world with. So we might, for example, choose to eat to armor ourselves, either because the act of eating makes us feel safe, like a coping mechanism to binge, or because living in a larger body makes us feel safe subconsciously. Most of this is happening subconsciously. But overeating to the extent that you are able to live in a fat body can also sometimes be a protective mechanism, because fat bodies in our culture are sort of invisible in some ways. They're seen as sexless, right? So if let's say you had sexual assault or something like that, or fear around sexuality, then sort of disappearing from that visible pool by living in a fat body might actually be a coping mechanism, might actually be a way of surviving. That might be a person's armor. Likewise, going the other direction and not eating, eating disorders, for example, until you are very, very thin, you also kind of disappear in that way, right? Also, we get to a point of thinness that is sort of treated as more infantile, and definitely also kind of removes the sexuality from the body, because all of the, visible curves of womanhood, for example, might kind of disappear as a person gets very thin. Also might feel like a coping mechanism or a survival mechanism against the vulnerability that they can't bear. So what makes a person feel vulnerable, most vulnerable, is going to determine what armor they build. And everybody's armor is going to be protecting them, or at least attempting to protect them, from the thing that makes them feel unbearably vulnerable. And for the runner, that can be a lot of different things. It doesn't just have to be one. But the interesting thing is, outside of like the activities we do with our bodies, like eating and exercising and sleeping and sex and, bathroom habits, like all those things, you can find armor in any of those places. But a lot of it is just in our bodies, in our muscles. So muscle tension, chronic muscle tension anyway, is a way in which we armor ourselves. And a lot of runners live with constant chronic body tension. So they might feel like, the shoulders are always up, always tight. The neck is always squeezed, like they can't relax it, or the jaw is always clenched, they can't relax it. And that goes throughout the whole body. There's so many ways this can look depending on the person and how they've armored themselves and against what. But the breath is a huge part of this. So a lot of runners are breathing very shallowly, like up in their chest, not deep and into the rib cage, the back, the belly, not with a full expansive dropped in breath. They're breathing rapidly and they're breathing shallow, and that allows and cultivates muscle tension up here. And things like overexercising can lead to certain tightness in the body as well. And And just being afraid leads to muscle tension. Have you ever noticed, like, while watching a scary movie, your whole body is tight? Like, imagine every runner basically is watching a scary movie all the time. Their body is responding like life is a scary movie. So there's so much holding, so much tension, so much tightness in the body. And that muscle tension, tightness, etc., is part of their armor, because it's part of what makes, we do that when we're like getting ready to be attacked, to protect ourselves. So if you think about it, all of this stuff that ends up hurting people, it causes injuries, it keeps us from, it creates anxiety, it keeps us from being able to like rest and sleep fully. I mean, it feels so good and relaxing to take full deep breaths. And if you can't do that because you're literally unable to let go, which a lot of runners are, you're really robbed of that experience. You're just even more anxious. It just wires you even more. So all of this armor protects them insofar as, subconsciously, it makes them feel like they're ready to be attacked at any moment. And unfortunately, a lot of the healing path for many runners in order to get to body neutrality is learning to let go of that tension, which is a slow, long process, because not only do they have to let go of the tension bit by bit by bit, they also have to be willing to feel and be present in whatever is underneath. They have to learn to tolerate the scary movie that is life, which sometimes means they have to learn to unpack and heal why they think life looks like a scary movie for them. Or maybe just learn to tolerate that life is painful sometimes and that they don't have to run away from it. It's not dangerous to feel pain, it's just uncomfortable. So there's a lot of work in this one that I can't go into today, but just understand that the path to body neutrality for many runners is to learn to release this armor, whatever it is, emotional or physical, to let go of it slowly over time and build that capacity to face life vulnerably without it. And from there, their relationship with themselves improves a ton, and their relationship with their bodies improves a ton. So that is everything for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back next week with the fifth and final common characteristic for the runner. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you then.